Aloha, and welcome to a very important discussion that we're having on Charter Amendment Number 1. That'll be on your ballot. Many of you will receive your ballot on October 21st in the mail, and it'll be due November 8th. So please consider this as you just plug into our discussion that we have. And with us on our panel, we have Stan Franco. Stan has been probably involved with affordable housing more than anyone and longer than anyone in our community, and has a lot to say about our history of that whole system and why it's important to pass this amendment. Gabe Johnson, our county council member, who's been very active in charge of the Affordable Housing Committee and has been also involved in passing a lot of legislation to really support us. And so thank you for all the good work, Gabe, that you've been doing in your first term, and you'll be going for your second term. So
thanks for
great.
having us.
And we have also Mike Williams. Mike is president of Maui Tomorrow and chairman of the Cost of Governance Committee, and also a fellow member with me on the Charter Commission. So welcome, Mike. And let's begin with our discussion about how important this is from the big picture perspective. You know, Stan, you want to start off with why you feel this is so important?
Well, just look at my family's history. We've been here since 1883, and you know, my family is broken up. I have some of my kids here, some of my kids on the mainland, and you know, I worry about this. I'm very concerned that, you know, we cannot keep our local kids here on Maui because we don't have the housing that they need to continue living here. And so that's for me, is the big picture. If we're going to continue to allow our families to continue to thrive here in Maui, we need housing, and we need housing at the prices that they can afford. And this is why we need the government to be directly involved in building the housing our people need.
Gabe, you want to add to that?
Sure. As far as the big picture goes, Stan really nailed it, but I would just want to add that when we have people leaving because the costs of our homes are too expensive, we not only lose our workforce, but we lose, typically they call it a brain drain, but I would add more to that, we would lose our cultural drain, right? No Hawaiians means no Hawaii, right? So we got to keep as many residents here in the workforce. And it's been a historical issue, and this is not new to our generation. Back in plantation days, we still struggle with that. I live on the island of Lanai. It's a living, breathing plantation town, if ever there was. So it's still alive and well, and we're working to solve those issues.
Great. Mike, you want to add to that in terms of the big picture?
Sure. To me, the three components of the big picture. One is we've got to have better housing for our teachers and our police force and our nurses and our new doctors. That's one big group. Then there's the group Stan's talking about, the below 80% of area median income. We have to have a lot more housing for that. And then we have our homeless population and our unsheltered population, including the ones that are sort of precariously unsheltered. They're sleeping on couches, or they're living 4 generations to a household, or whatever. So to me, those are the three big components of housing. And one of the reasons we can't keep people here and we can't attract the right kind of workers we need is because they can't afford a decent place to live for them and their family.
Great. So this goes back, I think, when at one point in time, there was a period where there was more affordable housing. And we weren't facing this brain drain or a drain of culture at the time. So Stan, you want to give us a little perspective of your involvement going way back in terms of some of the administrations and why it was effective way back in our history here in Maui County.
Well, we had the mayor, Elmer Cavallo, that brought everybody together. You know, he used the finances that were available through the county. He got the developers and the construction companies together. So he brought all components, and government was directly involved with the mayor handling this process. And we built housing in Paia, we built housing in Lahaina, we built housing in Kihei and Kaului. I mean, those were the houses that were, I think at one time, my understanding was 95,000 that were charging for it. At that time, was very affordable. Of course, in today's prices, we could not even consider 95,000. But he was directly involved in making that happen. And when he left the county of Maui, Hannibal Tavares continued that work. So, I mean, it's a question of, it has been done here. And it's the question of, are we going to take it over again? Are we going to have our government directly involved in telling the developers, this is what we need? When I was buying my home in 1975, the people that were constructing homes, the Arizumi brothers and people like that, they were building for the community at the incomes that our people can afford. We're not doing that anymore. When Elmer left the county, he asked me to create an affordable housing committee with his Kula Credit Union. And so I was on the board there. And I asked him one time, I said, when I look out here, I don't see the solution. And I'm wondering if there's somebody here available that can make this happen. Where's the leader to make this happen? And he said to me, if we don't do it, who is going to do that? It's up to us. We have the possibility, we have the experience, we have the knowledge. We are able to do it, but it's now our commitment to look at that past where we did it before and bring it to the future today, and let the government be directly involved in bringing all the parties to the table so we can build homes so that our people can stay here, so our families can be together. And I think, we have done it. Let's do it again.
I just want to do a follow-up question, Stan, on that. You were on that board that was really involved in moving things forward and getting subsidies from our government so that it would be affordable. What type of things were happening? Was that involved with developing infrastructure and also purchasing land as part of that? How did that work?
Well, there was something that, yes, exactly. All the elements that you talked about is what the mayor put together. He had the infrastructure built. He got the land either donated or purchased. I mean, he put it all together as a package. I was just there experiencing all of it and listening to him talking about what he's doing. So I learned from my conversations with him that this is possible and we should be doing it again.
Great. So obviously we're not doing it, though.
Correct.
And as we said in the big picture, that we're in crisis. So Gabe, you've been really working on this crisis. What have you done and what movement has been made up to this point in time? And again, why do you feel this charter amendment is so important in addressing this crisis?
Well, thanks for the question, Paul. It's a lot in that question, but let me try to tackle that. So basically, developers tell us there's two major costs to land, or two major costs to them. It's land and infrastructure, right? So with Bill 61, we're able to use bond money for affordable housing projects, and we can take our big affordable housing fund to pay off those infrastructures for 100% affordable housing projects. That's a really big piece of the puzzle. The other thing is,
that was just recently passed. And that's something that you
I wrote that bill.
You wrote that bill.
And the council accepted it. So that's just opening the valves of the money to flow towards affordable housing projects. That's really a big part because developers tell us it costs $550,000 to build an affordable unit. Well, when you have the front of the house or a waiter in a restaurant making $100,000, but the back of the house, the dishwashers are making $40,000, how do we find homes for these folks? Well, it turns out there's a lot of people in that low income bracket that need a lot of help. So we have to buy those down. So we're going to use subsidies to buy them down for the buyer, and we'll use subsidies to buy them down for the builder. That way the builder's needs get met, and then we can make those homes truly affordable for our people, our workforce units.
So you already started to take some steps along that way.
I'll give you another one, which
Okay.
is because that answered the question. Yeah, the cynical question. You say it's affordable, but really, how much is affordable, right? So you got to answer that question with Bill 107, which changes the affordable sales price guidelines. That's coming up tomorrow.
And this is another bill.
Another bill I wrote to answer the question is like, what is affordable housing, right? The other question I get is, yeah, affordable to who? Like, who are these homes for? And that's when we wrote Bill 111, which gives a residential preference list, which basically it says it's a local's first preference. You know, we do the lottery to get an affordable housing unit, right? We still are going to do the lottery, but for one housing unit, we'll pull 4 names out of that hat. And those 4 names for that one unit will be ranked by how many years you've been a resident. If you're born and raised, you're at the top of the list. If you've been here a generation or 2, you're mid-tier. If you just got here and been working for a year or 2 in our county, then you're at the bottom list. But those 4 names are in, they each one have a chance. Maybe the top person's not ready, it will go down to the next person. And that's a legal way to put a preference for our locals. So that answers the questions, yeah, affordable to who? Well, affordable to you is my answer.
That's great. I just want to acknowledge you for the work you've been doing in the council because, again, I mean, look at the gap that Stan was talking about when we had affordable housing and we had something, and now you're taking the ball and running with it now in such a wonderful way. So I want to thank you for that, Gabe. You know,
Thank you.
Mike, what would you like to add to this discussion that we're having right now on this piece?
Well, I think it's the reason we need this charter amendment, which creates a separate Department of Housing, is because housing has not had the focus and the right personnel at the administration level to actually implement the plan that the council actually funded. So we need to take care of county-owned land and build on that for the lower income people. We need to work with the private developers to create the ownership homes. Mostly what you guys have been talking about are ownership homes, but 75% or more of the homes we need to be rental homes. And the only way a developer can afford to build rental homes for the 60% below is to have county land so that they don't have to buy the land, and to have the full county infrastructure built around them, and maybe even subsidize the rent on some of the people if their incomes are really low. We need to do the same thing with the homeless. The main thing we need to solve our unsheltered problem is more housing units. You know, and they can be small ones, and they can be, but even the small ones, if they're gathered in an organized village where there's a live-in manager, and you know, they could be permanent for some of those people. I mean, we're not talking about just transitional housing. We're talking about housing that people can live in and stay there as long as they need to.
Now, Mike, as the chair of the Cost of Government Committee, that you were also involved in a study that was done then for affordable housing and looking at that. So could you just give us a little bit more insight as to what are some of the conclusions, especially as we look at the average median income from 0 all the way up to 120, 140?
Yeah.
So,
well, there's actually 2 things. One is the comprehensive affordable housing plan that the council finally funded because we couldn't get the mayor's office to do it. That actually only was delivered a little over a year ago to the council, and Gabe and his committee have just been doing all they can to implement that and fund it and give the mayor what he needs. But for whatever reason, the administration has not had the people capable of implementing that plan. And so we need this housing department in order to hire the right people who have the expertise to manage housing developments and to give it its own focus. I was very disappointed with the Charter Commission vote to delay the implementation of this charter amendment until July 1 of 2024, almost 2 years from now. Even if it passes in November, it won't take effect for another year and a half. And I thought that we should do it sooner. That we actually got a majority vote in the Charter Commission to move it sooner, but we didn't have the 6 votes we had to have to get a majority legally, and so it failed there. And then the council, on a close vote, decided to leave it the way it is too. So we need this charter amendment passed, and we need that housing department to really move things along.
well, I was with you on that vote on that one, Mike, for sure.
I remember.
But let's talk a little bit about the charter amendment. Gabe, could you just give us an overview of the amendment itself?
Okay, so right now we'll all agree we're in an affordable sales house crisis, right? We are in trouble. I often say, if you're in a crisis, you better do something about it. If your hair's on fire, you better act like it, right? So what this does is it gives the department's capacity, right? So it's gonna ask the voters, do you want to have a Department of Housing separate and a Department of Human Concern separate? That way allows them to have capacity, the ability to really move these projects faster. During the budget season, I put in 3 positions into a division within the Department of Housing and Human Concerns that would only take the RFPs, the request for proposals, the request for qualifications, putting projects out to bid. Let's go. We got to act. We got to do something. So that's what I envision the new Department of Housing to do, is to really streamline the process, push it forward, follow that project through the process. You have to go to water next. Now you got to go to public works next. You got to really have them pushing out projects on to the next project so that we can, on the next department, so that we can really streamline it. They tell us it takes 2 to 5 years to make an affordable housing project. Well, I'll tell you right now, on the island of Lanai, most of our kids graduating high school, they don't stay on Lanai. The expression is on Lanai is you export two exports, pineapple and your children, and we don't grow pineapple anymore. So that we have to act like this is a crisis, and we have to go out there and make the process faster, streamline it, and I think a Department of Housing specifically on affordable housing and getting those units up online is a very valuable choice for the voters. I think they should vote to support it.
So right now, we have the combination of human concerns in with housing. So sometimes human concerns takes precedent because you have people who are in crisis who, if they don't get support or do things, they may lose their life. So it becomes, something that becomes a precedent, and sometimes housing takes a back seat in the existing system that we have. And I think the beauty of this is that we're able to say, okay, we're focused. This is dedicated specifically to do this and to start to implement some of the things that you've already started along the way. Stan, would you like to give your feedback on how you feel this amendment will really help?
Well, I think Gabe said it well. It focuses on what needs to be done. We have to create housing. Our people are crying out for it. The thing that I want to say about all of this is that sometimes we focus on developers' interests or the government's interests. This is all about the people's interests. And we forget how this is impacting on people. People are living with each other because there's no other place to live, double, 2 generations, 3 generations together, or people sleeping in their cars. And we keep trying to remove them from different areas. We need to do better. It's about, it's about Ohana. If we really believe that we are family here on this island, that we work together, we love each other, and we support each other, then we have to do this. We have to create a focus on housing, and we haven't. I started working on a homeless shelter in 1986. That's how long I've been focused on this issue. And I've talked to people, I've written to the Maui News, articles, everything. We're still not there. And we got to stop this. We have to make this change. We cannot continue to go the way we're going. This has to change, and this is why the Charter Amendment needs to be approved.
Great. Mike, you want to add anything on to that?
I actually didn't answer the question you asked me the last time, which is what did the Cost of Government Commission study do? We looked at the homelessness issue, and we interviewed all of the agencies, both in the county as well as in the nonprofit world, who are running the shelters, or trying to help the people on the streets. And what we found out is there is no one that has a plan for how to get it better. We're just drifting along. We're not changing anything in the last 4 years. We haven't changed anything to really help our unsheltered population. And so what we recommended was that the council fund a request for proposal for a plan to end homelessness. And they did. Within weeks after we issued that report, Gabe's committee passed it, and then the budget committee passed it, and there's $250,000 now in the mayor's hands to issue a request for proposal to get a comprehensive plan to end homelessness. They haven't issued the RFP yet, even though we're now 3 full months into the budget year, but I'm told they're going to.
Well, I hope they do, because again, the issue, I mean, to me, it's unconscionable that we have this situation where we're doing these sweeps and then not having places for people to stay. And it's like you said, we're family. This is Ohana. And this is almost a desecration of that in terms of how we are supportive as a community itself. And I think, Gabe, the work that you've been doing, and Mike, what you've been doing, and Stan, I think that we have to take this expertise in this insight and creativity to resolve this issue. And it's here. I mean, we have the capacity and ability to do it. But again, we need people to vote. And to vote yes on this important charter amendment. Charter amendment number 1. So again, when you are getting involved in voting, you want to say anything else about anyone else about the importance of this vote and voting yes on this? Gabe, you have...
Sure. Everybody in the county can vote on this charter amendment. So that's a really important thing, that you'll see it. So no matter where you are, you can have a say on this. I think this will help streamline the processes, help with capacity. If you think that we're moving too slow, then you should vote yes on this and support it. That's what I would add to it. I think even folks who might be sitting pretty and they have a house, they rely on other people. We don't live in a vacuum. We need the workers, the folks who serve your coffee from all the way up and down the line of your incomes. We all need a place to stay. Virginia Woolf said, a room of one's own. We need that for everybody to really create a community. So I support this, and I hope the voters out there in Maui County support it as well.
Great. Stan, you have any last words you'd like to say?
Always have last words. I cannot agree much more than what Gabe has said. Again, we have to focus that, the government is there to do the work of the people. That's the reason for government. And when government has stayed on the side of not doing anything or waiting for somebody else to do something around this issue, and we have been waiting for 30 plus years and nothing happens, then we're continuing to foster this belief that everybody has to do it for themselves, but government needs to step in. And it's impacting our people, we're losing our people, and we're losing our families and our culture, as Gabe said. So it's time that we do something about this, and the time is now.
Great. Mike, anything else?
One last point, and that is that we can afford to fund the new housing department. We can afford to use county land to build houses on. We can afford to house our unsheltered population because Maui County is the wealthiest single municipality in the country if you measure wealth by the amount of property wealth here per capita. We have more property wealth per capita than any other county or city in the country, and we don't have to share that property tax with anybody else. We don't share it with the state. We don't have to share it with any school boards or any local commissions or any cities. It's all available to the county, and most of it is in visitor accommodation investments. And if we raise taxes on those entities and on our second homes, the cost is almost going to be exclusively paid for by tourists, not by anybody who lives here. But it's a shame that in the wealthiest county in the country, we haven't solved our affordable housing problem yet. We can afford to do it. We just need the will to do it.
And on that last point, I think that I hear from other people who are against the charter amendments that we cannot afford it. And basically, Mike, what you just said is we can't afford not to do this.
That's right. Think of all we can't run our water department right because we can't get enough engineers in here to know how to restructure our water delivery systems. We can't, our school teachers, they leave after a couple of years because they find out they really can't afford a decent place to stay. The same thing is true of our doctors and nurses. And all the people in the middle class here that earn that $80,000 to $100,000 a year, they have a housing crisis too. It's not just the low income people. It's almost everybody that works here.
Well, I hope all of our viewers get the point how crucial this is for our future, in so many different ways. So please, when you vote, I know that I'm going to vote yes on Charter Amendment number 1, and I encourage you to do so also. And also look at all of the 13 charter amendments and vote. And again, it's important to just fill out the ballot and drop it in the mailbox. In our primary, we only had 34.8% of the ballots that were put out were actually taken in and received. So please vote. It'll be starting on October 21st when you receive your ballot, and it'll be due by November 8th. So please fill out your ballot and also encourage other people to vote. It's such a crucial time for us as a community, so we need your participation, also your informed participation. So again, thank you for listening. Mahalo.